Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're looking at a pretty massive, incredibly quiet shift happening in a market that affects almost all of you at some point in your life.
Yeah, real estate.
Exactly, real estate. And our mission today is to unpack how this multi-trillion-dollar industry is, well, essentially rebuilding a fundamental problem that it spent the last 30 years trying to solve.
Right. And the wildest part of all of this, the thing that really gets me, is that they are actively marketing this regression to you as a premium feature.
It's crazy.
It really is a masterclass in repackaging a step backward as a leap forward. And, the data we have to pull this apart today is just phenomenal.
It really is. We are pulling from a really fascinating two-part analysis provided by the Cyr team. That's Vincent and Jane Cyr at Real of Pennsylvania. And they track market data across 977 distinct neighborhoods in Pennsylvania and Delaware. They have completely pulled back the curtain on this trend.
They absolutely have.
So whether you're gearing up to buy a home, maybe thinking about selling one, or you're just, fascinated by the mechanics of how giant industries consolidate their power, this deep dive is going to completely change how you look at the concept of exclusive private listings.
It absolutely will. Because the way we search for homes is being fundamentally rewired right under our noses.
Yeah. To give you a sense of how crazy this is, I want you to imagine for a second that you just bought the most advanced, ultra-fast smartphone on the market.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right. It has a gorgeous screen, incredible processing power. But when you actually try to make a phone call, a message pops up telling you that you have to drive downtown, walk into a brick-and-mortar building, and physically plug a wire into a switchboard just to connect to the person you want to talk to.
Wow. That would be incredibly jarring. I mean, you have this beautiful illusion of modern convenience right in your hand, but the underlying system has completely reverted to the 1980s.
Exactly. And you would immediately ask, why on earth are we going backwards? Okay, let's unpack this. Because to truly understand the mechanics of what is happening in housing right now, we have to look at what the market used to be like before the internet.
Right. If you go back to before the 1990s, the real estate market was entirely geographically fragmented.
Like totally disconnected.
Completely.
Yeah.
If you wanted to buy a house, you had to physically visit multiple different brokerages. Each office kept its own active listings in a physical binder sitting on the managing broker's desk.
Literally a 3-ring binder full of printed paper.
A physical binder. And if you walked into Office A, you could only see the houses that Office A was selling. You couldn't see what Office B had across town.
Wow.
It created what economists call total information asymmetry.
Let's define that really clearly for everyone because it's a huge piece of this puzzle. Information asymmetry basically means one party holds all the cards and the other party is totally in the dark.
Yeah, exactly.
You, the buyer, don't know what you don't know, which means all the power sits entirely with the broker holding that physical binder.
Right. But then the internet forced this massive transparency revolution. The multiple listing service, or the MLS, pooled all of those fragmented, localized listings into one shared digital system.
So suddenly the binders were obsolete.
Exactly. You could see everything on the open market, regardless of which office you walked into.
And that transparency actually peaked quite recently, didn't it? Like in 2020.
It did, yeah, with the National Association of Realtors Clear Cooperation Policy.
Right. That mandate basically said, no more hiding the ball. If you're publicly marketing a property, it has to go on the open, shared MLS within one single business day. It leveled the playing field for you, the consumer.
It did. But, systems that level the playing field for consumers tend to reduce profit margins for corporations.
Naturally.
So, predictably, came the 2024 amendment to that policy. And it introduced two massive legal loopholes.
Okay, what were they?
The first is called office exclusives. These are homes that are only shared internally at a specific brokerage and never hit the public MLS.
Got it.
The second is delayed marketing exempt listings, which basically allows sellers to delay their MLS entry while the listing circulates privately within a closed network.
Wait, let me stop you there because I want to make sure I'm grasping the scale of this. If I use an analogy, it's like trying to buy a car, but suddenly every single dealership in town decides to hide their absolute best, most pristine inventory in a locked back room.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And they refuse to tell you what the other lots have. I mean, why would an entire industry actively choose to break a functioning, transparent system and go backward like that?
Well, what's fascinating here is that this shift doesn't actually require villains.
Really?
Yeah, we don't need to imagine a smoke-filled room of executives plotting against the everyday home buyer. It is a structural, entirely predictable business pattern. We've seen this exact playbook run from start to finish in other major industries.
You're talking about the telecom playbook from the source material.
I am. The telecommunications industry provides the clearest historical roadmap for what is happening in real estate today.
Yeah.
There's a very specific six-stage consolidation playbook. It moves from fragmentation to a transparency revolution, which in real estate was the MLS to platform control, then regional fiefdoms, consolidation, and finally, oligopoly.
The old phone company model.
Exactly.
I mean, I remember learning about 1984 when the federal government stepped in and broke up AT&T's massive monopoly into 7 regional companies, famously called the Baby Bells.
Right, like Pacific Bell, Ameritech, Bill South.
Yeah. The entire point of that breakup was to help consumers by forcing these companies to compete with each other.
And for a very brief window, it actually worked. They competed on price, they competed on service, but then the inevitable economics of consolidation kicked in.
Because running a massive network is expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
So they started merging. Southwestern Bell acquired Pacific Bell, then Ameritech, and eventually it swallowed AT&T itself and just assumed the famous name. And on the East Coast, Verizon was busy assembling its own collection of baby bells. T-Mobile eventually absorbed Sprint.
Right.
So you started with this forced fragmentation designed entirely for the consumer's benefit, and today, just 3 massive players, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile, control approximately 98% of the U.S. wireless market.
98%. That is wild. And at every single step of those corporate mergers, I guarantee you they issued press releases promising the consumer lower prices and better service.
Oh, absolutely.
So if that's the roadmap, where does real estate sit on this timeline right now?
Real estate is currently in the baby bell stage. We are deep in the era of regional fiefdoms.
Okay, so the regional brokerages are reacting.
Yeah, they are looking at the landscape, they see the tech giants looming, and they're panicking. James Dwiggins, the CEO of NextHome, actually pointed this out recently. He explicitly noted that the whole point of the MLS exists so we don't go back to the dark ages of how it was 40 years ago.
But they are going back. I mean, look at the data from the Cyr team on how at Hanna. They are this massive independent brokerage in the Northeast, and they are actively building something called HannaList. It's a private listing network rolling out across Ohio and Pennsylvania. They are intentionally building a walled garden.
They are. But we need to understand the mechanics of why. Howard Hanna isn't building HannaList out of some malicious desire to make house hunting miserable for buyers.
Right, it's business.
Exactly. It's a strictly defensive survival mechanism. If a dominant tech platform controls the broader market, regional players look at the board and realize they really only have 2 choices.
Which are?
They either build their own walled garden to trap their inventory, or they become powerless tenants in someone else's ecosystem. They're choosing to build the walls.
So what does this all mean for the listener? It means your housing choices are being siloed to protect corporate market share, not to help you find a better house. You, the buyer, are suddenly being forced to jump between all these disconnected private brokerage networks just to see the basic inventory that used to be conveniently located in one central place.
Exactly. And while these regional players are busy building their local walled gardens, the massive tech giants are making their move to establish stage 3 of the playbook.
Platform control.
Yes. Platform control.
Okay, so if regional brokerages are building these local fiefdoms to survive, what are the tech giants actually doing? Because hiding a listing locally doesn't solve the main problem of selling a house, which is, getting enough eyeballs on it to actually find a buyer.
That is the pivotal question. And it brings us to the massive news that just dropped on February 26, 2026.
Right.
This is the moment the industry essentially solved that core problem of private listings. Compass, which is one of the largest brokerages in the country, announced they are funneling up to 500,000 coming soon and private exclusive listings directly onto Redfin's platform.
And Redfin has roughly 2 billion annual visitors.
Yeah.
That is an astronomical audience. So they found a way to completely bypass the open, shared MLS while still getting massive national exposure, but strictly within a controlled proprietary environment.
Yes. But to truly appreciate the mechanics of this, you have to look at the timeline of how this Redfin deal happened. It is a staggering 180-degree reversal in less than a year.
Okay, break that down for us.
Let's walk through the motivations here. In April 2025, Redfin CEO Glenn Kelman made a very principled, very public pledge. He planted his flag and said Redfin would actively bar private listings from their site to protect market transparency for the consumer.
I remember that. It was a huge stance for transparency.
It was.
So how do we get from a public pledge to block private listings to making them the centerpiece of the platform just 10 months later?
Because of what happened next. 3 months after that pledge, in July 2025, Rocket Mortgage acquired Redfin.
Ah.
Yeah, the ownership fundamentally changed. Rocket is a lender. They need to originate mortgages. By January 2026, Glenn Kelman departs after running the company for 20 years.
Wow.
And the very next month, February 2026, the Compass-Redfin-Rocket Alliance is announced. Rocket doesn't care about a philosophical stand on search transparency. They care about capturing buyer leads for mortgages.
Because to get buyer leads, you need exclusive bait.
Exactly. Compass has the hidden inventory, Redfin has the audience, and Rocket has the checkbook.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this trifecta is the ultimate manifestation of stage 3, platform control. You have the brokerage supplying the hidden inventory, which is Compass. You have the search platform controlling the consumer eyeballs, which is Redfin. And you have the monetization engine, which is Rocket Mortgage.
It's an entirely closed loop.
Okay, so we know where these private listings are living now. We know they're being paraded on this massive tech platform. But if I'm a buyer browsing that app, what does the actual listing look like? Because a private listing isn't just a regular listing with a different label, right? The data itself actually gets weaponized against the buyer.
It absolutely does. When these Compass private listings hit Redfin now, 2 critical historical data points instantly vanish from your screen.
What are they?
First, the days on market counter is removed entirely.
So you have no idea how long it's been sitting.
Exactly. That listing could have been circulating privately, struggling to find a buyer for 60 days, but to you, looking at the app, it appears brand new.
That's sneaky.
And second, the price reduction history is completely erased. You have no idea if the seller has been desperately slashing the price behind closed doors.
Now, Compass CEO Robert Refkin has publicly defended this erasure. He claims that removing this data protects sellers from, quote, misleading insights that damage value. Here's where it gets really interesting because I have to heavily push back on that logic.
Go for it.
Think about retail. If a product gathers dust on a retail shelf for 6 months, time on the shelf is the buyer's leverage. You expect a markdown.
Right.
Hiding that history doesn't protect a seller from a misleading insight, it just systematically strips you, the buyer, of your negotiating power.
That is the exact mechanism at play. It transfers the leverage away from the open market and exclusively to the brokerage, who still holds all that hidden data on their back end.
Yeah.
And that missing data feeds directly into what we can call the lead routing trap. In Rocket's press release for this new alliance, they proudly announced that they'll be routing over 1 million buyer inquiries directly to Compass agents. They refer to it as a high-intent lead pipeline.
But wait, those inquiries are going to the listing agent.
Precisely. And this is a direct warning for you listening right now.
Yeah, listen up to this.
When you are scrolling through one of these exclusive private listings late at night, and you click that very convenient Contact Agent button, you might type in a friendly, harmless message. You say, hey, we love this neighborhood, our lease is up next month, and our absolute maximum budget is $600,000.
Sounds normal enough.
You think you're just asking for a friendly tour guide to open the door? But you're connecting directly with the seller's agent.
Who has a fiduciary duty to the seller? Let's define that really clearly for a second. A fiduciary duty means they have a strict, binding legal obligation to act in the highest financial interest of the person selling the house.
Yes. So by clicking that button, you have just handed your entire playbook, your timeline, your desperation level, and your maximum budget to the opposing team's captain.
Oh, man.
And they are legally obligated to use that information to extract the highest possible price from you.
Think about that for a second. The next time you browse a real estate app and casually click Contact, realizing you just handed your maximum budget to someone legally bound to use it against you is a massive gut punch.
It really is.
But the extraction of your leverage doesn't stop at the price of the house. It extends directly into your bank account and how you pay for the house, which brings us to the third pillar of this new alliance, the mortgage math.
This is where the platform truly monetizes its control over the consumer. Rocket Mortgage is now embedded directly into the Compass platform.
Right.
And they offer what looks, on the surface, like an incredible, generous deal. A 1 percentage point rate reduction for the first year of the loan, or a lender credit of up to $6,000.
Okay, let's put ourselves in the shoes of a buyer right now. You are exhausted. You are bleeding money. You have moving costs. You have closing costs. You realize you need to buy a new couch because yours won't fit up the stairs.
Yeah, it's a stressful time.
So stressful. Let's do the math on this short-term illusion. Let's say you're taking out a typical $500,000 loan at a 7% interest rate. That 1% drop for the first year saves you about $3,600. When you're that stressed and overwhelmed, someone offering you a frictionless button on an app that instantly saves you $3,600 feels like an absolute oasis in the desert.
It feels like a lifeline. It feels completely frictionless. But the long-term reality of that button is brutal.
How so?
The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, tracks this specific mortgage data meticulously. Their research shows that borrowers who simply take the time to pause, step outside the platform, and shop their loan with just 3 different lenders save an average of $36,000 over the life of a 30-year loan.
$36,000. Wait, how is the gap that large?
Because of what the industry calls the rate spread. A rate spread is basically the difference between the highest and lowest interest rates that different banks are offering on the exact same day for your specific credit profile.
Okay.
In current markets, that spread can easily be 0.375% to 0.5%. Over a $500,000 mortgage, that tiny fraction of a percent compounding over 30 years creates a $30,000 to $40,000 difference in total interest paid.
Let's let that math sink in for a second. Let's put those numbers side by side. You click the highly optimized, frictionless embedded button on the app, and you save $3,600 in year one. But you miss out on the $36,000 you would have saved by slowing down and shopping around. So taking that convenient button nets you a loss of roughly $32,400.
That is the literal cost of convenience.
Yeah.
The platform's entire structural goal is to eliminate friction. Keep you in the app, keep you clicking.
Right.
But friction, the act of slowing down, comparing outside offers, and looking at the open market is exactly where you, the consumer, save your money.
Okay, wait, hold on. Let me play devil's advocate here for a second. We have clearly established how this entire private network system strips leverage, hides data, and extracts tens of thousands of dollars away from the buyer.
Yeah.
But doesn't that mean it must be amazing for the seller? I mean, somebody in this transaction has to be winning, right?
Yeah.
If they're extracting it from the buyer, are they handing it to the seller?
Well, to understand the seller's actual position in all this, we have to look at what economists call the asset owner paradox.
The asset owner paradox.
Okay, this is the one critical distinction that makes the real estate market entirely different from every other industry consolidation we talked about earlier, like telecom or streaming. In the streaming wars, Netflix owns the movie. In telecom, AT&T owns the cell towers.
The platform holds the asset.
Exactly. The platform holds the asset. But in real estate, the seller owns the asset.
That's a great point. Without your specific house, the massive tech brokerage literally has nothing to sell.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And the agent's entire legal structure, that fiduciary duty we just defined, exists specifically to maximize the seller's financial outcome. But these private networks pitch sellers on this psychological idea of exclusivity.
I see.
They sit down at the kitchen table and say, we're going to keep your home off the noisy, chaotic public market. We're only going to show it to a curated prestige pool of high-intent buyers. We're going to treat your home like an off-market masterpiece.
It appeals directly to vanity. But the Cyr team's analysis points out the glaring flaw in that logic using hard historical data. The National Association of Realtors' own research consistently proves that open market competition, putting the house on the full MLS for every single person to see, produces higher sale prices.
Exactly.
It's just basic gravity-level supply and demand. More eyeballs equal more competition, which equals a higher final price.
Yes. When you, as a seller, voluntarily agree to restrict your buyer pool to just one brokerage's private network, you are actively restricting your own economic leverage.
The Cyr team's source material has this brilliant analogy for this that I want to share. Imagine you write an incredible, brilliant novel, and a local bookstore comes to you and says, "We love this book so much, let's make it an exclusive. We won't put it on Amazon. We won't put it in Barnes & Noble. We are only going to sell it right here to our premium VIP bookstore members."
As the author of that book, your royalties are immediately capped by that artificially small, restricted audience.
Right. While the bookstore captures all the margin from the transaction because they don't have to split the sale with any other distributors, in this real estate scenario, the seller is the author. You own the incredibly valuable asset, but you are being talked out of your own maximum distribution.
This raises an important question. When an agent recommends bypassing the open market to use a private listing network, whose interest does that actually serve? Does it serve the seller's interest in getting maximum exposure and the highest possible price? Or does it serve the brokerage's corporate interest in capturing both sides of the commission, keeping the data internal, and funneling the buyer to their embedded mortgage partner? Those two interests point in very, very different directions.
It really is a paradox. The very professionals tasked with legally protecting the asset owner are convincing them to shrink their own market just to feed the platform. So where does this leave you, the listener, trying to navigate this minefield?
It's tricky.
The Cyr team provided a really sharp, rapid-fire checklist that you need to arm yourself with before you tour any home.
First, if you're a buyer, ask the agent directly. Is this listing on the open MLS or is it a private exclusive?
Good question.
If they say it's private, ask exactly how long it has been inside that brokerage's hidden network. Has the price been reduced during that hidden period? Force them to give you the data that the app erased.
Next, ask yourself who you are actually connecting with when you click Contact. Remember the opposing team's captain.
Yes, remember that.
And most importantly, ignore the frictionless buttons. Do the math. The best defense against a system mathematically designed to strip your leverage is to secure your own independent representation before you ever engage with a listing agent and to shop your mortgage outside the app.
Absolutely.
We really have to credit the Cyr team, Vincent and Jane Cyr, who have successfully navigated nearly 400 transactions since 2009, and their Offer Edge strategy tool for pulling back the curtain on these mechanics so clearly.
It is invaluable perspective. And I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over as you watch this market evolve.
Okay, lay it on us.
We learned a long time ago in the early era of social media that if the product is free, you are the product.
Yeah.
Your attention is what's being sold.
Right.
But as the real estate industry transitions into this tightly platform-controlled oligopoly, we have to ask ourselves a much more expensive question. What happens to the very concept of the American dream when the algorithms deciding which houses you even get to see are optimized for a tech company's mortgage profit margins rather than your actual needs?
Man, that is a heavy but incredibly vital question. The illusion of progress is a powerful thing, especially when it's dressed up and disguised as convenience. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, keep asking the hard questions about the systems around you, and we'll see you next time.